Well, good morning. My name is Jeremy Kane. I'm here with the Tennessee Department of Revenue Taxpayer Services. As Department of Revenue, we want to just thank everyone here who is joining us today. And we've got Billy Trout. He is with the Taxpayer Education, and we have got Dan Vinson, who's going to be moderating in the chat with us and keeping things going smooth in the background. He is the Assistant Director of Department of Revenue Taxpayer Services. And of course, we're here on behalf of David Jarigano and all of our lovely folks with you here at Department of Revenue. So we want to thank you who are joining us today. We truly do look forward to these new business workshops. You know, personally, for me, it's one of my favorite ones. I think about things that I can share with new businesses often. And so this is something like a little bit of an opportunity just to try to help you get started on the right foot. And so, of course, a few little things we want to cover just before we get into the actual material today is if you are having audio issues, you may need to leave and then come back in. Uh, Sometimes, if you're not hearing it, if you're not seeing options where it's allowing you to participate, we will turn the chat on a little bit later today. We're going to kind of go in segments because these new business workshops, they are just a little bit longer than the typical webinar, which is usually about an hour. This one, it goes substantially longer, but we will pause between sections and allow for some questions as we wrap up each different section. We'll take a little bit of a break at some point, allow you to go to the bathroom, get you something to drink if you need, and then come back and we can finish it up. If you are needing CPE credits, please just be sure to stick around to the end of the broadcast. What you'll have is a survey that's going to show up for you, and you'll need to fill that out uh, as we have it listed, and it'll help you get that CPE credit in a few days. I'm sharing my screen right now so you can see we have our contact information. This is going to allow you to get in touch with us. We've got the revenue.support@tn.gov. So that's an email that you can reach out to with your questions. Our general tax line is going to be 615-253-0600. And then registration and franchise excise, we have those numbers as well. That's the 615-253-0601 and franchise excise 615-253-0700. If you are looking to have material that we're going to be looking at today, if you want to have a copy of this too, you can either just with your phone, you can take a screenshot or camera picture of that QR code. What it'll do is it'll open up and allow you to view the PDF document that we're going to go with today, or you can follow those instructions, go to our revenue website, and then just click on taxpayer education and new business tax workshops, and you'll see the participant guide that we're going to be using today. And so we look forward to getting into this with you. We at the Department of Revenue, we do love getting to share and help out in any ways we can. And so, like I said, we're going to be doing a tax overview for new businesses today. We're going to be looking at 10-TAP, a lot of things that help a business just get started off on the right foot. And this is our July edition of this. We do it quarterly. And so if you go through our YouTube channel, you'll see that we've got past ones in there as well. So getting started, I think it's always good to know a little bit about what do we do here at the Tennessee Department of Revenue, and especially Taxpayer Services Division. And so here is a breakdown of the state revenue sources. And this is primarily what we are engaged with on a day-to-day basis. This is a pie chart of the fiscal year for 2024. It was just a good example. And so you're going to see in this pie chart some pretty staggering numbers. Obviously, business is doing amazing in the state of Tennessee, because if you look down here at the sales and use tax, kind of got to squint to see it, but that is $14 billion plus of sales tax revenue that is, collected, and all of this money, 4 billion in franchise excise, some of the smaller taxes, we've got them showing on the pie chart, but that's a massive amount of money that is collected through taxes. And so you wonder, how is my tax dollars being spent? Well, we got a nice little breakdown here. And so you're going to see that 56 cents of every dollar, it goes to education. It is reinvested back into making sure that the things that we do across the state is being sustained. 28 cents goes to the state general fund, and then 16 cents, it goes back into the local government, and that's just the sales tax. And so that money, it is being put to work and helping keep the state going. In the taxpayer services division, we've got several things listed here that we accomplish on a daily basis. We are the customer service arm of the Tennessee Department of Revenue. We answer taxpayer questions. Been doing it for years. It's honestly one of the most enjoyable aspects of the job, is just getting to help answer those questions that so many businesses and professionals have. We educate to improve. So we look to make sure that not just we're doing our job, but we want to help the businesses across the state of Tennessee, and even those who are functioning within the state of Tennessee through, an out-of-state business through Nexus. We want to help make sure that you are able to function and operate your business the best that you can, especially on the tax end of that. And so we make sure that we provide plenty of material, documentation, resources available to you, and we work tirelessly at this. And we have, and a key thing is for compliance too. We want everybody to be in compliance. We work within registration. So whether it is registering a new business, registering a new location that you just moved your business to, registering new tax accounts because maybe you're going to start offering a taxable service, sales taxable service, helping keep all those things. But it doesn't just end at that. It goes on into the topics of exemptions. Maybe it's an agricultural exemption, maybe it's an industrial machinery exemption, and just the list keeps going in that aspect. And so we want to make sure that everybody is properly registered. Nonprofits, schools, every type of functional operation in Tennessee. We want to help with that. We have the call center operations, and that's where I came out of. I was in that for many years, just as a representative and then as a supervisor. And gotta tell you, the call center, that is a great area to be at. Some of the finest folks in Tennessee, and we truly do stay passionate about helping with those questions, whether it's just getting logged into TNTAP, or maybe it's something of a very unique tax situation that you're just trying to determine, is this a taxable service? How does this operate? Yeah, we're there for purposes like that. We don't function as a CPA or a tax professional, but we can definitely help bring some guidance to some aspects, point you through where to go. Here's the material to find. And then we also do the processing of exemptions and applications, like I just mentioned with the registration the other day, or the other moment. And so processing of exemptions and applications, that is a continuous, unending job right there, because there's so many businesses operating within the state of Tennessee. And I think that's a great thing to look at. I know Billy, he has been here for a minute, as well as Mr. Dan Vinson. And so they can testify for longer time frame than I can, just at how adamant the Department of Revenue is about holding a standard of excellence and what we try to do for the businesses across the state of Tennessee. The workshop overview. So we're going to go through different aspects of this today. We're going to go through TinTap. We're going to review what the website looks like, how to find what you're needing on the TinTap website, uh, from filing or how to register your business, how to look up a certificate of resale, maybe. Just so many different functions that it has. We're going to look at different tax accounts and kind of do a breakdown of the purpose, necessity, the reason behind that tax account, and many other things that help you getting started within your business. We have a new business section on our website, revenue website, and that is going to help with kind of a checklist, because we did make you a checklist, and it helps you make sure that you have everything exactly as we advise. This is the best flow of operation to get your business off the ground. And so getting started today, this is the Tennessee Department of Revenue's official website. You can see down here at the very bottom of the screen, we have got the website there that you can type in, and it's www.tn.gov/revenue. And this is separate from our TinTap. Now, TinTap, that is as Billy just put in the chat here, that is the tax account system. It's where your records, where you register, file, pay state taxes. And so this is it's kind of like the sister to this website. It's the external portal made available to you. But here is where we keep a massive amount of information, upcoming information. You can go through here and you can find all of our resources. But you'll see we have circled in the yellow here, it says for business. And so this right here is where I always advise businesses to go if whenever they're starting up, if you're just even thinking of getting a business off the ground, it's good to know. A lot of businesses, and it's what's so great working with new businesses is you're on here for a reason. Nobody forced you to attend this webinar. You joined it because you've either aspire to do a business, you're excited about it, or you're wanting to make sure you nail the tax aspect of it so your business can run smooth without any, background confusion taking place. So this is an excellent area to go for that. And we have here a new business checklist. And you're going to see we've got that hyperlink that you can click on right there within the attachment. But you're going to see we've got 6 different sections here laid out for you. It's the setting up a new business. Then we go to step 2, getting your licenses and permits, establishing your tax accounts, your exemptions if you're needing exemptions, registering for your tax accounts, and then the last step is making sure you're aware of your tax filing due dates. That's a pretty big one right there. I think we've all seen someone who has missed that tax filing at some point. They'll get a letter from us. We try to help you avoid that. So what I'm doing is I'm actually viewing this within a web browser, but I'm actually going to go and navigate real quick to the revenue website just so you can see kind of it in play. So this is where we're going to go for those of you who are joining right now and you're wanting to get the materials that we're doing. If you see right here in our featured links, new business workshop, it's got today's date there. If you click on that, it's going to take you right to the participant guide that we're looking at, so you can save that, have it to review later. But if I click on For Business, right here, we have got a lot of different sections. It's going to explain to you what we was just looking at, the For New Business screenshot there. But it's going to show you news and publications we want you to be aware of, our education and outreach, the letters, penalty, waivers, refunds. Anytime you go to your mailbox and you see a letter from the government or the state government, everybody kind of gets a little concerned. We're going to help make sure that you know what that is to not get too worried. And then if you're closing your business, sometimes you're just retiring from business, you're ready to just retire. Sometimes maybe other opportunities come around, or you're closing it to start something different and reopen a new one. And then, of course, the Contact Us branch of this, where we want to make sure that you know how to get in touch with us. So if I go into the For New Business, we're going to see right here there is a download a printable worksheet. And this right here is very, very good. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger here for your eyes. There we go. So this is a checklist for new business. And when you're looking at this right here, let's see, it's going to have you go through, you're just going to kind of use this to make sure that when you start your business, you get everything pretty much lined up before you actually start typing in or going to the clerks or going to the Secretary of State or even the IRS. This is going to help you make sure that you got everything exactly as it would need to be. And it asks all the questions that we're going to want to know, that we need to know. And if you miss these questions, we're going to eventually bring it up and be like, we need to know this if we're speaking with you. And so it helps you from establishing a business name to your location of where you're doing business at, the mailing information, the structure type. Oftentimes, there's a lot of questions regarding what type of structure of business do I want to be. And this helps kind of bring that question into the forefront early on. Are you just a sole proprietorship operating under your social security number or your ITIN? Or are you going to be something like a LLC, a corporation, things like that? And let's see, Billy, he's got us something here in the chat I just seen. It says, as a new business owner, knowing these steps is important. Not all of the things we'll discuss apply to every business, but feel free to reach out to us by email or phone and specific questions on your business, and we can help with that. Excellent point there. There's going to be some things today we'll discuss. Maybe you're a sole proprietorship. You're just operating under your social security number. But we get into discussing maybe the franchise excise tax. Doesn't concern you. That's one right there you don't have to worry about because you're a sole proprietorship, and a franchise excise tax. That's going to be for the LLCs, limited partnerships, corporations. They're the ones who are going to have to be mindful of that. And so there's going to be some things that just, you don't have to necessarily consider for your situation. Uh, and just kind of highlighting some key things that I'm seeing here on this checklist. This right here is a very big one. Register your business with the Secretary of State. So sole proprietorships, you don't have to worry about this one. But if you are a single member LLC, a multi-member LLC, a corporation, limited partnership, you must charter with the Secretary of State if your business is domiciled in the state of Tennessee. If you have physical presence in Tennessee, this is going to be a requirement. And then if you are an out-of-state business, of course, then there's potential that you may have to do that. And so that's where some of our resources are going to play in very strongly for you. But this is something that you're going to want to have knocked out before you start officially registering with us, is get some of these things handled. You're going to want to determine your start date of when you're going to start business. Let's see here, your licenses and permits. It helps you determine what exactly is the services that you need licensing to do within your business, the tax accounts that you're going to need. And then we get on down into exemptions, registering your tax accounts. There and here you can put down what your filing due dates are and make sure you're aware of that. Sometimes I tell people, set an alarm in your phone to go off once a month, and that alarm it's going to be reminding you sales taxes due. Because that can be kind of an easy one in the beginning to forget about, since it's a monthly due date on that. So just kind of a good point there. And let me go back here to our slide. And so got these licenses, permits, and more. And so and this right here is kind of just like a chart where we've got it broken up into three specific columns. You've got your what. What is it that you're needing to do? Is it a business license, alcohol license, tax accounts, a professional license, unemployment and insurance? So these are the what's of what it is that you're needing to do. And then we got in the second column, the where. So for your business license, we know it's going to have to be the county and city clerk's office that you have to obtain these licenses. If you are chartering your business, and obviously the word charter, if that means if you're like a partnership, a corporation, LLC, you got to charter it. That's going to be the Tennessee Secretary of State. And these are clickable hyperlinks where you can just click on these. It will help you navigate where it is that you need to be. And third column is the required for. And so this is where, like it says, for business license, that's the what. The where, you do it with the county and city clerks. What's it required for? Most businesses, with few exceptions, and more info later. So this is something right here where it's going to be very good to take notes on, because just because you're a business operating, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to need a business license. There are certain areas that are exempted by law where a business license is not going to be necessary. And so we'll touch on some of those topics. But this is really good for someone who's maybe selling, if you're a restaurant or a venue and you're selling alcohol. Well, this helps you know that you need the Tennessee ABC, the TABC alcohol. um, and so when you're doing this one, the alcohol beverages and consumption, this right here is going to be one that you don't want to skip over. You want to make sure that you get all of this one right. It's a pretty big one. And so we want to make sure that you know these things. The Department of Commerce and Insurance for professional licenses. Maybe you are working as a contractor, a handyman, maybe some type of other profession, cosmetology. And so this is a section here where certain professions, even like insurance agents and other, it's going to be very good for you to know to have this. They will probably need other documentation. And so we can help get any documentation they may need if they need proof of like a business license to renew things later on. And then the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development. This is for all businesses with employees and payrolls for unemployment insurance. And so, Billy, is there anything right here that I'm touching on? I know Billy; he's always got some great insights. He'll see what I've looked over, and just a wealth of wisdom. But Billy, would there be anything that you're thinking right now you would want to kind of also point out of just what we've covered so far?
Jeremy, you did a really good job of just hitting everything on an overview there too. Like you said, obviously not all of this applies to everyone. You probably mentioned the unemployment insurance. If you don't have employees, you don't need unemployment insurance. Professional licenses, most businesses don't have those. So, it, the information that I put in the chat there is pretty important. And if you have specific issues about your business that you don't understand, reach out to us and let us go through some of this with you. So when we do these new business workshops, we have to do kind of a one size fits all. And that doesn't necessarily work out for everybody, but it's just intended today to give you a flavor for what state taxes are all about and how important it is to know that there's other agencies like the IRS and Secretary of State and other people like that involved when you're setting up some businesses. So clearly, we're here to help you on the state tax side. So Jeremy, I think hit that on a great overview there. So I appreciate it.
Excellent. So we're going to get into tax accounts, and Billy, if you'll just help me kind of come to a point where we can stop to ask questions and eventually take a break. Should we take any questions yet, or do you want to just go ahead and go into the tax accounts, Billy? You think it's just good to keep
Let's
moving
uh
and
let's keep on going because I think at this point, the
Hmm,
overview is going to be sort of open. So I'm not sure that we could drill down right now, but we certainly will here in just a minute and
yeah,
open that chat up.
very good. And so when we're going into these questions, if we open it up and we're discussing sales tax, at that point, we'll try to make sure the questions are focused towards sales tax. If your questions are going to be on liquor by the drink and we're discussing sales tax, we'll say, hold that question, or here's where to reach out. We're going to try to get to these different sections. And so you're going to see on the page that I'm sharing right now, we've got taxes circled. This is going to be a page you want to become familiar with. I'm going to go ahead and let me go to the next thing here. So here is some of the common Tennessee taxes for business, and each tax type in this diagram. We got the tax types, and then the second column it says applies to. So you're going to see for sales tax, what does it apply to? And so sales tax is if you are making over $4,800 annually through retail, uh, tangible personal property sales, and or over $1,200 in annual taxable services. So basically, if your business is operating, let's just make a very simple example. Maybe you've got a donut shop. I love donuts. And so if you've got a donut shop and you are starting off and in your first year of business, you hit $5,000. It's a great achievement. So then here at this point, all right, I know, hey, or you can forecast that you're going to easily get $5,000 of sales. Sales and use tax is going to be important to go ahead and get registered. And obviously, the taxable thing that you're selling, the tangible personal property, is going to be the donuts. Maybe your clothing store is going to be the clothing that you sell. Maybe you're an auto parts store, the auto parts. But the other part of this that some people don't think about is the taxable services. And it's just a $1,200 threshold. And so maybe you have got a really good business where someone can bring you their electronic device, maybe a gaming console, maybe a stereo. It might be an appliance from their house in their kitchen, a kitchen appliance, something like that. Maybe the car, maybe they can just bring their car, they got a noise going on. You know how to fix this. Here's the key thing is if you are working or performing a service on a tangible personal property, an object that is, you can see it, touch it, feel it, you know, that right there is going to be a taxable service. And so if someone brings their lawnmower to you and you are known for being the lawnmower whisperer, you know how to get those things going back again. Uh, that's a taxable service. But we always want to specify that it's tangible personal property that this is being considered upon, because we also have something that is called real property. And a real property is going to be things such as houses, any type of structure fastened to the earth, whether it's a barn, house, it is an apartment building, an office, some type of, commercial real estate, building. That's real property. And so then when it gets into that, it's a different thing. Sales tax is not going to be charged on the service that you're doing if you're repairing it, like a residential remodeler. But if you're just working on tangible goods, that does at that point become a taxable service. And so some businesses, they never sell any actual uh, parts. Maybe you don't sell parts, but you work on cars. You don't sell the parts. You don't have anything to do with that. You're just simply working on them, helping them get something, corrected within it. Taxable service. For business tax, this is going to be most businesses. Entity type does not matter. Doesn't matter on sales tax either. Entity type. So whether you're a sole proprietorship, whether you are a LLC, a corporation, a partnership, uh, does not make a difference whether or not you will need business tax. A business tax, it is determined upon other grounds. And so it is with $100,000 or more in annual receipts or your gross sales. This is going to be the renews, or this is going to be your need for a standard business license. And there are going to be some areas who maybe, you know, it doesn't apply to you. And we'll get to that. But for the most part, a large majority of businesses, the largest majority, you are going to be required for a business tax account. Now, if you're out of state, there's going to be obviously what we call nexus, or things that determine if you met the things that would require you to obtain this. But for those that are based in the state of Tennessee, a large majority, you're going to need it. If you're under $100,000 and your gross receipts, then this is going to be still need a business license, but you're going to have a minimal activity business license. And that's if you're making between $3,000 and $100,000 a year, then you're not going to have to worry about getting a standard business license. And this was a big deal. It passed in 2023. And so when this law passed, this changed fundamentally the structure of business tax, because used to the thresholds were much smaller all years leading up to 2023. But in the middle of 2023, this changed. And if your business is making between $3,000 and $100,000, then you are, considered at that point a minimal activity business, and you can obtain a minimal activity business license. You're not required to file a business tax return with that, and so it is, something to be mindful of. Dan, he just put excellent information here also, that it is with taxable receipts of over $3,000. You must obtain a business license. Businesses with more than 3,000 but less than 100,000, there is the required to obtain a minimal license. Good information here. The license is $15, and it must be renewed with the applicable county and or city clerk each year for $15. Uh, taxpayers with a minimal license are not required to register for and pay business tax. So that's excellent information. He put it in a lot better phrasing than I could. But if you're over the $100,000, and it's obviously where any business aspires to be, it's a year by year progression you often work up towards. But if you're over $100,000, then it's a standard business license that you would have to have. With a standard business license, that is where you are required to file a annual business tax return, reporting those receipts. It is where you would obtain from your county and city the business license that they would issue. And those business licenses, it'll take you through the year and into the next year before they expire. And each year around April is when we get those renewed. Then the other tax type we have here is got it listed F&E tax, that is franchise and excise tax. So this one, if you're a sole proprietorship, you're just operating under your name, your social security number, this isn't going to apply to you. But if you're an LLC, limited partnerships, corporations, listen up. This is a businesses are required to register with the Tennessee Secretary of State. And so this is where on that previous page we had that hyperlink. You're going to want to make sure that you keep up with these things, because if you are a corporation, an LLC, limited partnerships, you're going to need to operate under a EIN. And so obviously you'll go through the IRS to get that. And then once you kind of get the structure and the name of your business established, at that point, you're going to get in touch with the Tennessee Secretary of State, get everything registered with them, articles of incorporation or articles of organization, and then you're going to move on towards us, where you will need to have a franchise excise tax account. Let me see what we got on this next. Okay, so before we go to the sales tax basics, let me go over here just to the website. And I'm going to go back to the home. And then we're going to click on taxes, what we were just showing a moment ago. And maybe I need to make this a little bit larger. All right. So you're going to see here, these are the taxes that we help with. Now, that's quite a bit of taxes. Uh, I do not have all the rules and everything memorized on these. I heavily rely on our tax manuals and our resources that we make available.
Jeremy, it's probably worth mentioning that there's almost 30 different kinds of taxes in Tennessee. And it would be impossible to have a workshop that covered every one of them. And as you mentioned, so many of them don't apply to every business. In fact, I don't think there's any business that they all apply to. I don't think you could. But certainly, um, it's good to hit those manuals up like you were just mentioning. They're fantastic. So make sure you reach out, look at that, the website, and then like we're mentioning, we'll be sharing our phone number and email address multiple times here this morning, and make sure that you understand how to get a hold of us.
Yeah, excellent point. And if your business is incorporating all of these taxes, then you've got your work cut out for you. But thankfully, most businesses are not going to have to take up this type of burden where it's all of these. But we got them separated. So what is the most common tax types? That's the three that we just went over: your business tax, your franchise tax, your sales tax. But then we have it broke down. So if you are engaged in, some type of business, entertainment business, or venue where alcohol, beer, tobacco, they may be sold, we're going to have everything here that you need in that aspect to look at. You can click into them and it'll give you some more information. Other taxes, so say maybe if you do car rentals, well, there's an automobile rental surcharge tax. Maybe if you are engaged in a tire shop and you sell new tires, change tires, change oil for clients. This right here, it's a tax that you would need. And so we got them all separated through here. And then, of course, the archived taxes. This is going to be the gift tax, the hall income tax, and the inheritance tax, which are no longer uh, actively collected through the tax years that we're into now. But let's just click into business tax for a quick second. So if I click into business tax, it doesn't stay a mystery long, because here it's going to give you in this left side panel a very quick breakdown of each aspect of this. What is right here, just the general overview, basically what I was stating just a moment ago. It's going to help you understand the necessity and the purpose of this, the threshold of $100,000, the few exceptions, uh, where it says, with a few exceptions, all businesses that sell goods or services must pay the business tax, the state business tax. And so then we get into some key bullet points of what would require it. You're selling a service, leasing items, selling items, and we can go down through this panel here for a quick moment. Yeah. So we have like due dates and tax rates. This is going to show you based on your classification. Every business will fall under a specific classification. Maybe you are providing a service. Well, you are a class 3 business. This is going to be your retail rates. This is going to be the wholesale rates. You are a class 2. Maybe it is that you are just selling tangible goods. You are not offering a service. And so your business would classify under the 2. This is going to be your retail rate of what you're going to be taxed upon of those gross receipts. Registration and licensing. This is very good. I know a lot of people have questions when it comes to the licensing. I always want to bring a distinction. We're not the county and city clerks. We're the Department of Revenue. We collect the tax. They are the ones who administer the licensing. And so this is some information just to help you with that aspect of when you're communicating with them. And Billy put a great point there. Your classification is determined by the type of business that you are. Our business tax manual, it's got some excellent examples, details about this. It will help you break down which one of these classifications you'll fit into. But this is good information for in-state, out-of-state businesses, contractors. This is going to be some good information to know about licensing. Obviously, we've got a very good resource right here for classifications. And so if I just click into classification 2, looky there, it is going to tell you that uh, this is going to be your most common examples to kind of reference by and determine, which type of classification do I need. It goes here, class 3. And so, banners, let's see, fireworks, all types of things. So these are here, if you're doing these business pawn shops, these are things that can make you classify as a class 3. And so just kind of putting out some good examples there. Billy pointed out something in the chat. I love bringing this up if somebody, is kind of like concerned, all these taxes. Business tax is under 1%. And so it is a small tax, but still, just because it's a small tax does not mean that it's less important. It's just state of Tennessee does not put a high tax rate on it, but we put a high importance on it. And it is to help with the licensing, to make sure that businesses are operating in compliance. We'll break down retailer, wholesaler. This is going to help you determine What kind of business are you? Maybe you got your a foot in one and a foot in the other. Sometimes you do some wholesale work, but most of the time you do retail work. This is kind of a good way, a litmus test to help you know which one that you are. Deductions, exemptions, credits. So this is going to answer questions where when you're doing the return, the business tax return, it's going to help just kind of break down some questions that you may have when it's asking about deductions. It'll say here deductions for business tax, and got a pretty good list there of things that would fall under that. Tax guidance. This is going to be linking you to the very specific manuals and resources we have, and then of course the forms. And so your business tax return in paper, an affidavit of exemption for those who are vision impaired or disabled veterans. So excellent information. Wanted to make sure you was aware of that before we moved on. And so now we're going to start into sales tax. So sales tax applies to retailers with over $4,800 annually in the sale of tangible personal property and or providers of $1,200 annually in taxable services. And we went over
Hey,
already.
Jeremy,
Hey, yeah,
can I interrupt you for just a second?
go for it.
I'm going to make a suggestion because we're getting close to about halfway through this. Maybe we could not do sales tax yet and
Okay.
maybe open up and see if anybody has any questions on the business tax,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and then maybe come back into the sales tax thing in a minute. What do you think? Is that okay?
Works good for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let me go into the chat here and get that turned on.
All right. And if y'all would just type any questions that you might have about business tax or anything that we've talked about so far in there. We'll try to address these for you. See if they're coming in.
Hi, Carol.
Elizabeth was talking about an example for a short-term rental property. Well, I can tell you just real quick on that, Elizabeth, what you're looking at there is a classification 3 service-based business. Okay. So you're going to be able to pay business tax on the gross receipts that you get from renting that short-term rental property. And really that's about what it comes down to. And if you're over $100,000 or $100,000 or more, then you'll need to remit tax. But other than that, you just need to have a minimal activity business license. Looks like we have a question. Can we extend business tax? No, you cannot. There's nothing in the law that extends business tax. Franchise and excise tax has an extension
Yep.
provision, but business tax does not. If you're running into problems and unable to file and pay timely, there is a petition for penalty waiver that you can apply for on TINTAP once you file the appropriate tax. And we will consider a penalty waiver if you've had a situation where you can't file.
Yeah, I see Sierra, she asked this very informative. Will we have access to a recording or transcript? Yes. And so immediately after the broadcast, we work to start trying to get this pushed out to our website, our YouTube channel. And so I usually try to tell people 1 to 2 days, hopefully a little bit sooner than that, but we will try to have this pushed out. But the document that we're going by, it will already be available on the website. But yes, you can count on having this video to reference later on.
Digital products, someone asked about, they're generally classification 3. Sometimes we have to drill down a little bit more on that, but that's a general question or general answer for you on that. Trying to look at a couple of the other ones here, Jeremy, too. Carlos says he got a letter from the city that says they need to register with them even though you live outside the city limits and you sell software and data services. No, you do not have to register with them. And if they have questions about that, they can reach out to us and we can clarify that. But if you're not physically located and have an office location within those city limits, you do not need to register with them. The rules are a little different for contractors that make a $100,000 or more in any particular city or county, but
John,
not for the type business that you've got. So that was incorrect advice, Carlos, that you received on that.
John, he had a good scenario question. He says, if I'm starting an LLC, I would need to get a minimal license through my county clerk and then use the license to get an EIN through the IRS. Okay, so no, what you would want to start off doing is if you are a LLC, start with the IRS. You would want to start there first, obtain your EIN. We advise then you move on to the Secretary of State, get your information registered with them, and then you can begin moving into the steps of the county and city clerks. But if the business is just only on paper, something to be mindful of is, some tax accounts you can potentially hold on registering them until you actually start the business. If you are just only got an ideal and you want to go ahead and get it registered with the IRS and Secretary of State, but the business is actually not going to even be operating for like at least a year, maybe longer, I wouldn't advise some tax accounts that you want to go ahead and register, like sales tax, maybe business tax. Some of these you're not going to need them until you're in the actual conduction of doing business. He says, furthermore, at what point would I go to TINTAP to register tax accounts? So I just answered that. And also, is sales tax collected monthly or annually on a tax return? Sales tax would be monthly.
In almost every case.
Yep.
Yep. Carol was asking Jeremy, sorry, I had to mute out there for a quick second about, now my screen changed. What was
It
she
happened to
asking?
me earlier. I got lost for a second.
Where are you, Carol? There you are. Classification services is 3. However, it does state that a business license is not needed for accounting services. Right. So if you are providing full service accounting to clients, not just tax return preparation, that's actually exempt from business tax. You do not need a license and you don't need to register for business tax at all. So you're good on that one, Carol. Pretty easy one there. And we could probably
If
hit a couple more of these here, Jeremy, before we move on.
Dan, he just answered a good one. It's where if a business is in another state, but they have an employee working remotely in Tennessee, my screen jumps on me there, but they have an employee working remotely in Tennessee, uh, does which states the employee has to file and pay unemployment tax? Dan, he mentioned that unemployment tax is handled by the Tennessee Department of Labor. I see people reach out questions like that periodically. Very, very good situation, though. We'll see those take place. Teresa, she says, if I am with a nonprofit, we have filed with the Secretary of State as a business and charity. I have reached out to my county clerk and I've been told we do not need to file any paperwork with them. Is this the case?
Yep, that's the case. Unless you and with your nonprofit are engaged in some particular way of like selling tangible personal property, like you
Yeah.
are a nonprofit, but you decide you're going to go out and sell T-shirts and coffee mugs and all this stuff on a regular basis and all that kind of stuff. So that gets into the sales tax area. But generally, nonprofits are good to go once they're registered with Secretary of State through their reporting requirements.
Just the label being nonprofit doesn't exempt you from it. Sometimes I've seen people maybe like churches or other nonprofits. They would think, or doctors' offices. They would think, well, I'm exempt, so I can I do anything here and it not become taxable? if you start just conducting business like anybody else would, yeah, at that point, that conduction on the business could become taxable. But as long as you are just operating as that nonprofit without any of the extra services or things that you're doing, then you should be okay.
And we encourage people to reach out to the IRS about nonprofit issues because the IRS controls who is an actual nonprofit, under what Internal Revenue Code section you're exempt under. Typically, charities like 501c3, you hear that sometimes, and that's that too. But one thing that a lot of people don't know is they say, "Well, I'm a nonprofit." Well, are you? Did you make an application to the IRS as a nonprofit? If you didn't, then you're not a nonprofit.
Hmm.
Officially, from the federal government, just a little FYI, from a federal standpoint, if you don't make an application with the IRS for nonprofit status, the IRS considers your organization to be a corporation and they'll tax you. Okay. So you've got to make sure you dot I's and cross T's on the federal side as well. We're not here to really talk about federal stuff, but that's important because it ties in heavily with nonprofits. And we do see a lot of those letters that we get that help us document the nonprofit status.
Perfect. Ed, he had a great question. He says, welding services. Then he asked about sales tax on tangible property, but not on real property, correct? And then labor. So this is where, and this will be a good question to segue into sales tax with. But yes, if you are, you know, welding on tangible personal property, then at that point, if you are also having to sell, also like selling them material that you're having to weld to it, at that point, yes, sales tax is collected when it's involving tangible personal property. Labor is sales taxable too, but the second side of that question, but not on real property, correct? Correct. If you are welding and it's something, maybe a type of construction site where a office building is going up, it's a different ball game right there. We kind of have a special set of tax rules for the contractors.
Right. Diane had a question too about an airplane broker sales being out of state, but the gross receipts, Diane, is what you're talking about here. If you're receiving the gross receipts in the state of Tennessee, they're going to be taxable in the state of Tennessee. So they would be taxable here. If you were to do that kind of work out of state and not really in Tennessee, it could possibly be exempted. But I think in most cases, based on your scenario, there will be taxable in Tennessee. Now, also, you mentioned something about professional privilege tax only calculated on sales of Tennessee sales. We're getting stuff mixed up on that. Professional privilege tax doesn't apply to what you're talking about. That is a special $400 tax on certain professions. We're not here to talk about that today, but that is not the same thing. Not at all. But Jeremy, I think what we need to do is, if you don't mind, is to go ahead and let folks have about a 10-minute break.
Yeah,
And we'll leave, can we leave just chat open and then maybe we can get to a couple of people in chat and then we'll
absolutely.
come back in 10 minutes and plow on. What do you think?
That sounds great to me. So good time to
Awesome.
think up some questions for us, get you some coffee, do what you need to do. But what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and just leave things as are, chat open. We're going to step away and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. All right, we do thank you for once again being with us today and coming back from a short break. Maybe you could get you some coffee. See what some questions we have here. So for John, yes, to clarify, yeah, that is exactly what you'd want to do, John. You'd want to start with getting the EIN through the IRS for the LLC, and then I would advise next steps go to the Secretary of State, do your articles of organization. Upon doing that, yeah, if you want to do your bank accounts and stuff, perfect. And then you'll start working towards your licensing and tax registration. So that sounds like a great plan. And of course, yeah, get the licenses when, like, you're not get the license, but, like, register the tax accounts when you actually do begin in service. If it's going to be like a year off, before you actually conduct any business, right, I would hold off on registering the sales tax account. If you do register it early and there's no business, you can just file a zero return when it's requesting a return to be filed monthly. Just file a zero return, report no sales until sales begin happening too. Sarah, so if a provider is starting a PLLC for a therapy services, a franchise and excise is required. However, a business tax license is not required. Is that correct? That sounds correct, yes. And so licensed medical professionals, and the types of things that they do, so it's like a doctor, and it's just kind of a long list of certain services. But yes, that would fall under what sounds like an exempt business activity. And so at that point, it would just be the franchise excise tax. Yes.
Jeremy, we probably should move on and go ahead and go through our material because we only have a limited amount of time. So if we
Right.
haven't gotten to your question, we'll give you a method to ask that question if we don't reach it this way. Okay.
So going into sales tax right here. So with sales tax, this applies to retailers with over $4,800 annually in tangible personal property and providers of services over $1,200 in taxable services. So we have a chart here. What is taxable? And we like the word stuff. If you say stuff, I'm referring to something tangible typically, and some services. And so you just kind of got to think, with what I'm selling, is it, can you touch it, feel it, see it? Is it an article of itself where it's like an article of clothing, something that you can sell to someone? And then we've also went over the services, anything touching tangible personal property, including the labor, can be sales taxable. The rate, so the rate is location based. Now, business tax is going to be classification based. The tax rate for sales tax, though, this is where it falls into jurisdiction. And so this will be determining where is it in Tennessee. Tennessee has a flat 7% state tax rate, but depending on which county and city you're in, that local tax rate may be a little different. It might be 2.25%, might be 2.5%, might be 2.75%. And so you'll have a variation across the state between a total of 9.25 and 9.75% sales tax. Now, who pays sales tax? So the business, you will collect from buyers and then remit the sales tax back to the state of Tennessee. Best way to think about it is business tax. It is a privilege tax on the privilege of doing business. Sales tax, think of it like this, and it'll hope to save you a lot of trouble. Sales tax, you are just a middleman who takes it from the consumer who pays it, and you return it back to its rightful owner of the state. And so you're the one who's just moving that sales tax. You're the medium through which it travels through. And so I always advise people, don't get too caught up when you're collecting sales tax. Remember that sales tax has got to be moved on to the state. So, don't put it back in the business, and then all of a sudden when it comes time to pay sales tax, you don't have no money to pay it. Just remember that money, it is just traveling through you to the state. Filing frequency. So we have annual, quarterly, or monthly. I will say probably 95% of the time it is going to be monthly. Billy, he might be able to weigh in on in what situations would it be annual or quarterly, but I'll tell you though, for the heavy majority, it's going to be monthly.
Yeah, Jeremy's right. So our registration area, you can contact them if you want to adjust your filing frequency from monthly to quarterly or annual. But those are a case by case basis. And a lot of times it's based on the nature of your business and what you're doing. But you can expect and need to file on a monthly basis as a general term. One thing that Jeremy, if he hasn't mentioned it yet, we'll mention it soon, or we'll mention it now for that matter. Sales tax is due for every period that you're registered for. So say you're monthly and you do have to file by the 20th of the following month. Okay. That's even if you have zero sales. So when you register, like Jeremy was talking about earlier, and get all these tax accounts, that clock starts ticking. Okay. So if you say, well, no, I haven't really had any sales the last 2 or 3 months, I haven't done anything yet. Well, we're going to start sending you a bill for some kind of crazy amount of money, honestly, that you don't really owe because you didn't file the return. We can fix all that and do a bunch of stuff to try to help you, but it is a nightmare. Do not do that. So file that even if it's a zero return. We've got to have that every single period so that we know, because we do not know that you had zero sales. We don't have a crystal ball. So you got to let us know and help us out. Okay.
And I want to
Thanks.
enter a question here. I seen Megan had. I am exclusively wholesale. Do I need to keep my customers' resale certificates on file? Yes, great question. Yes, you do want to keep those on file. That is a wonderful ideal, and we do encourage that. And Yusef, he said, to assist others with starting a new business, what is the best advice you can give that I should consider when assisting others? Ooh, that's a loaded question, sir. I would just advise make sure that your business is structured correctly. Make sure that you're ready, to have all your, get your resale certificate and make sure you have your inventory stocked and you purchased it with that resale certificate. Make sure your licenses and everything is compliant. Make sure that you understand, what the tax rates are, so that way the whole business part goes smooth. Uh, but yeah, that's a loaded question there. And last aspect of this, Megan, is TinTap idiot proof? It is. It is. It is idiot proof. Yes. I love the TinTap website. I think they have done a wonderful job with TinTap. But with sales tax, there's going to be a lot of exemptions and resale certificates. So it's going to be an account where, and we just did a webinar last week on resale certificates. So you can go back and check that out. But with resale certificates, this is probably one of the biggest aspects of sales and use tax. The certificate of resale, if you are starting a business and you are going to have a showroom full of inventory, then you probably do not want to wait till day one when you're opening the doors to register for sales tax. You're probably going to want to register that sales tax a month or so in advance, maybe a little bit earlier, just because that certificate of resale allows you to present it to the vendor. And when you purchase what it is that you're reselling, you're not going to pay sales tax on it, because instead you're going to collect sales tax from the customer and return that sale or report that sales tax to the state. And if you did purchase items to resell, but you paid the sales tax on it also, it does not mean that you can skip sales tax on that one item. You still have to collect sales tax. And so this is pretty out there for just making sure that you invest your dollars wisely and you make it an easy process for yourself. Get that certificate of resale. Each location has to have its own certificate of resale. If you are operating a restaurant, for example, and you've got two locations, you've got one in one county, maybe a city within a county, and then the neighboring county, you've got another restaurant. You cannot use that one certificate of resale for both locations. Each location is going to have their very own certificate of resale. It's going to be listed for the physical location of where that business is operating out of. And any changes that you make to your business, maybe you know, uh, you're in a area where a business complex where there's some locations in this area that are more likely to get more customers, so it comes available to rent. You move to it, you've updated your address now, so you want to get back in touch with us. You want to make sure that these addresses are updated with the Secretary of State if you need to, but with the clerks, the business tax, sales tax. You want to make sure that you get all these things updated. If you change your doing business as name, and so maybe you're a sole proprietorship, and Jeremy's Guitar Shop, but later on, maybe I have a change in the DBA and I go to Jeremy's Electric Music. I need to notify the Department of Revenue that, hey, I have made a change to my DBA. I've updated this. And you can do this through TinTap. These are changes that you can yourself make in TinTap without actually having to call us. But we do have here, though, at the bottom of this slide, sales tax basic webinar, sales tax basic PDF attachment to that webinar video, as well as the sales tax manual. And just to give you a good peek at it as well, let me go back here to this tax page, and we're going to look at, come on now, here it is, sales and use tax. We have got a lot of information packed in here for sales and use tax. So everything from the due dates, the 20th of the month, it's going to be the tax rates, registration information, local sales tax, how you can look up the local sales tax, single article. Maybe you are selling something like a used car lot. I've worked with many of them in the past, and so a used car lot, when you're selling a vehicle, if it's over $1,600, then it can qualify for a single article special tax rate. We've got the exemptions, explaining these exemptions in great detail. Then even things like the marketplace sellers, which maybe I can just take a quick second and explain that. So marketplace sellers, when you are doing a business, I don't know if maybe you can just kind of think of a random thing. Maybe you're selling, kitchenware, and you decide to start selling this through a website like Amazon, a lot of other websites, not just trying to point them out, but they're just kind of the big one. So many other websites. At that point, that is a marketplace facilitator. And so then, due to the laws passed, they will collect and remit sales tax on your behalf. And so it's good to go back and read that section about marketplace sellers, facilitators. It's very good to go through and read about that information. That way, you're not double reporting tax. We got hemp derived cannabinoids, consumer use tax. Consumer use tax is kind of the one that often goes overlooked of the sales and use tax. We got sales tax holiday information, tax guidance, all the different forms, all these exemption applications. And, it covers a lot of ground, covers a lot of territory. And so this is a great place for you to fall back on. And if we have some questions for sales tax situations, we can definitely look like, so Megan said, are you familiar with Shopify? Yep. It was my understanding the taxes are collected automatically by the platform. However, one e-commerce sale for someone out of state did not get charged taxes. Would that mean I just cover the cost of the taxes for that order? So, Billy, would that be falling under the interstate commerce? That's kind of like an interstate commerce situation to me, where if it is a sale where possession takes place outside of the state of Tennessee, then it would fall under interstate commerce, is what that's sounding like.
Jeremy, I'm sorry, I was answering a question on chat. So could you repeat what the nature of what you're asking?
Yeah, sure. So Megan, she stated, let me find it, screen's jumping here. Basically, she sold through Shopify, and one of the sales was to an out-of-state customer, but sales tax she seen was not collected on Shopify for that one, and should she independently collect sales tax on it? And I was saying
No,
that sounds like an
not
interstate commerce
it is.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a sale to a customer outside of Tennessee that's exempt anyway. So no, there would be no reason to report that.
Well, John Duke says, would I need multiple resale certificates to sell at local market or festivals? Now, when this is getting into the local markets or festivals, I'll rely on your thought on that, Billy.
Yeah, let me talk about that. So this is a sort of a complicated question and doesn't have a real good answer because some of our markets and festivals have their own locations. So when that happens, the organizer will ask all of the vendors to register for that location. You'll know that if you engage in that activity because they ask you to register. In those cases, then you'll need to report those sales at those particular locations um, at by that location ID that we establish. Okay. Now, a lot of times when you go to these other places that do not have an official registration, what that does is that puts the sale back to your main location where you're located in Tennessee. That makes the sales tax appropriate and allocated to that permanent location. So that's basically it. Of course, if you go outside the state, that's an interstate commerce situation, and you don't have to pay sales tax on that. There you go.
Some other good questions. Karen said concerning a place, Whatnot considered a marketplace facilitator. I'm not familiar enough with Whatnot to know, but now every website that is a marketplace facilitator, you should see that in your agreement when you're beginning to sell with them, or you can inquire whether or not they are going to be a marketplace facilitator. that should be something that is disclosed between you and them when you're going to be doing business on their marketplace. But if it says I don't need to apply for sales tax, I do advise apply for sales tax because you're going to be needing to purchase items for the intent to resell most likely. And that certificate of resale is what you're going to use to purchase those items tax free. So then you can sell them with the intent of collecting sales tax back to the state, whether it's you collecting the sales tax or it is Whatnot through their marketplace facilitator, as they would report it back to us. But I do advise, and even our website, it does advise, yes, register for that sales and use tax. And then seen another one, Diane, my client owns a boutique. The boutique went out of business and now the client's in a holding pattern. I believe the boutique owner will now need to register for sales and use tax owner owned, correct? So yes, yes. Let me see. Was the boutique
Yes,
owner?
Dan answered that one.
He
Dan
did.
answered it
Okay,
and said she will definitely need to register. And that's true because obviously she's going to be selling those items independently to her customers from this point on. Unless she takes her business to another shop where that shop is acting as the dealer, like the other place was doing. And then, of course, that wouldn't be appropriate. But anyway, yeah, that's how it works. Somebody's going to collect sales tax. So if she's going to be the dealer or the seller in that case, then she's going to be kind of like tag you're it. So it'd be a good idea to register. Again, if you register now and you don't make any sales right now, you got to file those 0 returns. So don't forget that too. Um,
Augustina had the question. Billy, I think you answered the photography question in our
I
chat.
did. I put a link in there about photography that was in frequently asked questions on our website. So I think that covered that.
Very good. So, Augustine, if you want to scroll up through the chat, you will see Billy. He's put an answer for you for the photographer question. Very good, thorough answer. So that'll be helpful to you.
Um,
Um,
Amanda had a question about destination-based sourcing, selling
yeah.
something to a customer in Tennessee, sales tax based on the customer's location or yours. If that customer is in Tennessee, it's based on your location, not their location. That works vice versa for out-of-state businesses selling to Tennessee customers, and they have to do that based on the customer's location. And Jeremy, we probably should move on to some other material. And it's impossible to answer all of our chat questions here because we have so much stuff to go through, and we only have about a half hour left with you today.
So for franchise excise taxes, we'll segue into this one, spend a minute on it. Franchise excise tax is a deep, broad tax, but we do have excellent information on it on our website and through our resources. So it is based upon the franchise as the net worth and the excise, because it's two taxes combined into one. So franchise is the net worth and excise is the net earnings or loss. That is what's taxable. And it shows you here the tax rate. So franchise tax is 25 cent per every $100 is the tax rate on franchise tax, and the excise tax, this is going to be a 6.5% tax based on the net earnings and loss. Uh, who pays? Businesses. And it's not just going to be like a sole proprietor business, it's going to be the LLCs, the corporations. It's going to be those who are required to register with the Tennessee Secretary of State. Our system, Department of Revenue and the Secretary of State, they communicate back and forth to each other, and we help make sure that businesses are compliant. And so sometimes, maybe some of you later on, you may need to have something like a letter of tax clearance, of good standing, letter of tax clearance reinstatement. letter of tax clearance, termination, or withdrawal. And so this is situations where franchise and excise tax, those types of documents come into play. The filing frequency, so it is annual. It is the 15th day of the fourth month after your fiscal year end. Extensions are available for franchise and excise tax. Estimated payments do apply to some businesses. And so some businesses, depending on the uh, revenue that they're producing, they may have to actually do estimated payments quarterly. But this is all explained very good within the taxes resource on the Department of Revenue's website. And notes about this is it closely ties to IRS annual filing and your Secretary of State registration. And so, just to give you that example of what it's looking like here when you go out into franchise excise tax, I just advise read over this, make sure that you become familiar with the tax guidance that we would want you to know on this, everything from apportionment credits, uh, maybe you qualify for obligated member entity or a FONSI, family owned non-corporate entity type of exemptions. And so these are things to be aware of. Maybe you're a financial institution where you'll be filing the FAE 186 return. We've got some general information here, and this is something you can click on and look there. Tons of questions answered. Nothing makes me happier than going to a website that actually has a treasure trove of good questions laid out for you. And so we got some of the most common questions right here, everything from quarterly estimated payments to the filing requirements, um, ownership questions. Franchise excise tax, it's one of those you couldn't cover that whole tax in one webinar. You would have to have separate webinars just because there's so many different variables at play on it. And so just something I do encourage, take some time, research that one, use the documents that we provide for you to get the best, get yourself positioned. We have plenty of webinar videos available for franchise and excise tax. You can, in fact, go to our website. If you go down here to the revenue website and you go to taxpayer education and outreach, and you just click on this, and then you click on our tax webinars. If you scroll down, which you see we have the upcoming legislative updates coming up here soon, but if you just scroll down, you're going to see that you can sort these taxes by the tax type. So alcohol taxes, business taxes. Go to page 2. We're going to see a lot of franchise excise uh, trainings here, presentation guides. I use this stuff on a daily basis. Billy, he has been working within the taxpayer education, him and this unit producing these guides and this material. And when I tell you it is a treasure trove to get into, it is absolutely going to help answer almost any question you're going to come across. If you use it in unison with our tax manuals, it's wonderful to use. And Veronica asked, can I replay this webinar at a later time? Absolutely. We're going to upload this to the website where you'll be able to find this. If you go into the taxpayer education and outreach, and then you click on right here, the new business tax workshops. Yes, you will see here where we have these posted. We even have them in Spanish. And so you'll be able to view these, download the guides. Absolutely. It does take us 1 to 2 business days to get the new one uploaded, but we'll have it there. I'm going to move on from franchise excise tax. If you have questions about that one, we can definitely try to answer those, but I would heavily advise for this one uh, the revenue.support at tn.gov will be a good area to ask questions concerning franchise excise. Our 615-253-0700. Listen for the options when you dial that number, but they're going to be very helpful for franchise excise guidance. Go and other tax accounts. So did you know that Tennessee has over 24 different state taxes and fees? We kind of covered that. And so you can kind of go here to tax web pages. This link will take you to the manuals, our revenue help, tax frequently asked questions. Someone said, are you going to develop a Q&A from questions asked? It'd be kind of hard to really drill that down, but we do have a revenue help here. I kind of highlighted on in that franchise excise section a moment ago, where if you kind of go into revenue help right here, and then you click on one of these taxes, it's going to help you get a lot of questions asked. Look at all these taxes we've got here. I can scroll down to example sales tax, and we got 185 articles. These are based on questions that we get. And so if you have a question about coupons, we have got here a laid out great example of the guidance you would need on coupons and related articles down here related to it, referencing the Tennessee annotated code of how we got to that decision. I'll just briefly cover liquor by the drink. This is pertaining to if you're selling alcohol and wine for consumption on the premise. Beer is handled locally. And so taxable for liquor by the drink is going to be alcohol and wine. There is a 15% tax rate. And who pays? Well, the customer pays and the business remits it. These are due on a monthly basis, and this is when we also reference the ABC board. This is where you're going to get your license. This is if you have to close out your liquor by the drink account, this is who you have to actually go through to get that account closed out. And but liquor by the drink, we have a specific unit who tremendous in helping with questions concerning that, our miscellaneous unit, as well as you can email revenue.support@tn.gov. But one thing I think is really worth pointing out is we actually have our very own tax manual, an alcohol manual, but also a bars and restaurant tax manual. So let me take a moment here just to show you how to get to these wonderful tax manuals. If you are on our website here and you go down here and click on tax resources, got pretty good information here, but we're going to click on the tax guidance. We want some guidance. Right here is where you are going to choose tax manuals. And we have an alcohol tax. If you click on it, you're going to see you can click on our most recent one. It was updated in June. And so you can find the most updated version. But you can also go down here to the bottom and you can look at our industry specific guides. And this is wonderful. I am very proud of our Department of Revenue for the ability that they've done to do industry specific guides that drill down for real questions to situations where you need more specifics. And if you go into the bars and restaurant ones, it is going to open up, we've got 52 pages in this alone where you can find, just looking through the context here of our contents page, so many different, whether you are food trucks, catering, special events, cover charges, Even if you're dealing with theft, breakage, acts of nature, mixing bar taxes. And so, wonderful, wonderful amount of information here. Very easy to read through. It's wrote in a language that you do not have to have a degree to understand, so I can understand it. And we make those available. So that's a great option for you. And we have other industry specific ones also. Maybe if you are doing auction work, if you are doing short-term rentals, I've seen a lot of short-term rental questions come up today. Nonprofits, automobile dealerships, of course, the bars and restaurants, and then contractors. Contractors, a booming business industry in the state of Tennessee. And so each one of these, it is wonderful. 54 pages just for the contractors. And we cover every tax type. We help make sure that you are highly familiar with how your business is going to operate in the state of Tennessee. So let me back out of this. I do not want to run out of time on y'all before we get to the end here. Delinquency. So here's some good general tax account information. Penalty and interest does apply to the deficit and delinquent payments. So we always want you to be aware of that. We hate it if it comes into a situation like that. We try to do good in communicating with you to help prevent you from getting to that point. But a penalty of 5% of the unpaid amount is added for each month or even a partial month that a payment is delinquent or deficient, and that can stack up to a maximum of 25%. And then interest is computed at the current rate of interest, and that can typically change over time, but you can find out what that is. The collections will be made on any taxes not filed and paid. And so if you go out of business and you told your last customer, you're my last sale of the day, and you told your family you're closing your business, and then 4 months later, 5 months later, you finally get around to checking some of these letters that you've got from the Department of Revenue, your eyes may just jump right out of your sockets because you're like, why am I getting these letters saying that I owe these taxes? I closed my business. Well, you may have closed it in that sense of, saying I'm done, but you didn't go back and close it with the Department of Revenue. You didn't file your final tax return. You didn't go into the TinTap website and actually choose the option to close your location. And so what can happen is it can cause tax returns to still keep generating over time. So, hey, we want to help you avoid these scary letters if you get them. We don't want you to have any headaches if we can help prevent it at all. If taxes are overpaid, then yes, you can get refunds or credits can be issued. So you can absolutely, if you overpaid by accident, or maybe if an amendment to a return had to happen and it significantly dropped the uh, tax liability and it generates a credit on your account. Absolutely. If you have a credit like that, you can apply it to your next tax return through a credit memo balance, or you can do a claim a refund. Our audit unit, they'll go through, they'll process that claim, and then they'll issue a decision on it. But we always check. But we also have a webinar available on tax compliance and the collection process. What you need to do to close your business. So you must notify, just as I said, you must notify us with any business ownership changes or closure. Even if you're not closing, you're just selling it to a new owner, and the owner is purchasing the EIN, the name, they're purchasing rights to everything. Absolutely, this is a good time to go ahead and update us, Secretary of State, franchise excise tax. Make sure that everything is a smooth transition. Get your tax clearance letters that you need maybe for the sale. If you are selling the location but closing it and someone is going to start a new business up in that location, you'll want to make sure get everything closed out so we still don't think that you're there doing business. uh, Carlos says, what if business ownership percentages change in partnerships? Great for you to update the Tennessee Secretary of State with that. And then also, when you are finished with that, you can get that information to our franchise and excise unit, where any information such as stakeholder, ownership information, it can be updated with them, and you can just verify if they need that information, but I think it's always good to double check.
One thing to mention, Jeremy, probably is partnerships don't pay franchise and excise tax,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
we do want to know if there's changes in partners and owners and refer to as stakeholders, which is sort of weird, but that's our terminology. So yeah, contacting registration is a great idea. Whenever we get updated information, we love it because you would not believe the amount of return mail that we get because people fail to update their mailing address or location address or whatever. So yeah, all that stuff is very important. Thank you.
good information. We have a link here in this presentation for the closing a business. Absolutely advise take a moment to go through that, find the accompanying uh, PDF document that we generate for those. It will be very helpful. And now we're going to segue into TinTap. Now, TinTap, this is the bread and butter of you officially doing things effectively on your business. You're going to see on the website we have a e-file and pay option. So let me go back out here. Right there it is, e-file and pay. So if you click on this, it is going to bring you to the TinTap website, where this is basically the external portal where you are going to be handling your tax accounts. You are going to be making your payments, registering tax accounts, receiving your documents that you need, from certificate of resale to tax clearances, registrations, things like that. So it is a integral part of the uh, website that you'll, or functions that you'll need. You're going to see here we have a lot of different utilities also across this. We have payments, and so there is an ability without a user ID to actually make a payment, to file a return, to register your business. And this is probably the best starting place for any business, is when you are coming to the Department of Revenue website for the first time. If you have not done anything, maybe you are a sole proprietor, and all you need to do is you need to register for your business. You need to register a sales tax and a business tax account maybe. I advise, before you do anything else, click right here on this registration and where it says view registration links. You can kind of think of this, and Billy put it there, TinTap is like online banking for your business. This is where you're going to keep up with all of your tax accounts and where you'll register them. And you will see an option for register a new business. And you will then go through just answering the specific questions that it's posing to you. So, are you an entity from outside the United States? Nope. Right here in Tennessee with you all. Entity type, you can choose, so many different ones here, but we'll just do sole proprietorship. And then right here, you're going to choose, yeah, I'm going to be registering with my social security number, and then you'll key in that information. If it doesn't have a red asterisk to it, it's not required. And so if it doesn't have the red asterisk next to it, and you're putting in the information, but maybe it's causing an issue allowing you to proceed to the next page, you may want to just focus on getting only what has the red asterisk in it filled out, and then later update the rest of the information. But that's just kind of a good guidance there. But what typically happens here, though, is you're going to go in, you're going to get your business registered, and on the next page, it is going to begin asking you, what tax accounts do you need? It's going to go through, you know, that whole list of like 20 to 30 tax accounts. They're all going to be listed there. And from that, you're going to begin choosing, all right, I need sales tax, I need business tax, I'm going to be changing tires, I need tire and oil fee, I might do car rentals, I'm going to do auto rental surcharge. This is where you'll get all of your tax accounts established. This is where you will register your business location, where you are physically domiciled at, doing business, and you'll get all this information set up. If you are a LLC or a corporation, let's just do corporation here. It is going to ask a few more little pieces, but like I said here, if you don't see that red asterisk, we want you to fill it out to the best that you can. But if you don't know some of this, you can still proceed forward. The key goal is we just want to make sure that you get registered for what you need. And you go back here. TinTap itself. So this is a fun little conversation we're about to have. So this is something where I see people reach out periodically. Is they will say, I'm trying to register my business. I went to the registration, register a new business. I put in my information, my social, and it says this information already exists. Hey, what in the world is going on here? I've never registered my business with you yet. If you have registered a TinTap, or if you have went to the city or county clerk and you have registered a business license, then that will put you within our system. That will have that key FEIN, social security number, ITIN, that will have it listed within our system where you technically are registered. So you would be okay at that point just to go up here to username and password, or create a logon, and actually begin the steps of creating a TinTap account. It is not hard. It is, yeah, I promise you, it is not hard. It is very easy, very straightforward. You answer this first question, helping us determine where are you located? Are you an entity from outside the United States? Nope. And you're just going to go in here to doing a very simple pattern of a few forms. It gives us your registration information. I'm just going to be a single member. I got my federal employee ID number. I'll key in that information, my name, my contact. I hit next. At that point, you just go forward to a address page. It can just be the address of where you, the user ID owner, where would you want to receive mail about this specific user ID? Or you can put the location of your business, and then you will go to a page where you create a user ID and a password. Now, if your user ID you want to use is already taken, you can make an adjustment to it, but you can't use anything like an email address. We do advise make sure you write down your user ID, write down your password, write down what your secret question information is. So that way, if you need to do a password reset or you're having trouble logging in, you can always just quickly go back and retrieve that information. But let me pull up though back into the presentation here. Yeah, and this is things that that the TinTap account is going to help with, like an overview. It's going to let you if you have a TinTap account that you can log into, you can still from there you can register your tax accounts, you can register your locations, you can schedule payments, amend returns, file returns, And we do have a revenue help section that's going to be very beneficial just to making sure you have all the documents or all the questions answered, documented here for you, like how do I file a business tax return? How do I log into TinTap? How do I gain access to an account? A very common question about gaining access. We have the TinTap Assistant, so you'll see those little chat boxes there. That's going to allow you to click on that, and then you can type in your message. You see here we got the screenshot. It says real person, and it says send us a message or give us a call, and it will help you get that communication going with us. But you can also ask it other questions, and it can try to help give you some guidance. Stephanie says, if I have multiple customers, do I need a TinTap account for each customer? Stephanie, if you are a CPA, bookkeeper, working a tax profession, accounting profession, you can use one user ID. Now, you will want to make sure that user ID is not registered under the information of that business that you're helping. You'll want to register this user ID, this TinTap account, under your, you know, uh, EIN or social security number that your business is operating through, where the entity is, and then you are going to be able to gain access to your clients' information through that, and you can gain as many as needed. I honestly don't know if there's a limit to how many you can gain access to. I've seen people with, probably 50 pages of clients where they help just such a large CPA firms and stuff where they have so much people that they help, but you can gain access to each specific tax account for that client.
Right.
Billy,
And
what you
Jeremy, yeah, let me just jump in there too. I'm not sure exactly if Stephanie is asking about that particular thing there, but if she's talking about multiple customers, I wonder if she's talking about customers for her own business. You don't register your own customer, you just report all of your sales as one bulk thing. So I'm not sure exactly what she's asking there too. But since we only have another few minutes, I was wanting to maybe stay on the line with you here, Jeremy, as we go through the
Yeah.
rest of these and look at that homepage summary. And that's what TinTap looks like. Um, Pretty clear, really, isn't it, Jeremy?
Very clear. Yeah, I mean, it's laid out. We have the key sections here circled for you that you need. You can navigate through summary. We'll see what Action Center looks like in a moment. But the key thing we want you to see here is, first of all, you have a Manage My Profile. This is where you can update your phone number, email, your secret question, password. And then we have the Make a Payment, View File Return, Additional Actions and Licenses. So this is where all of the magic happens. If you need to file a monthly return, you can always click on View File Returns and you'll see those options. But if you're needing to claim a refund, if you're needing to close an account, or maybe it's like the business tax year, you want to view that license, you can click on Additional Actions Licenses. Fair warning, not every license is going to be visible through there. It's dependent upon if the clerks, city and county are able to upload it, or if they do choose to upload it to our TinTap website. The Action Center, here's where you're going to see things like what are we trying to communicate with you? Maybe sales and use tax. All right, hey, you got a $15 balance due. We wanted to make sure you seen that this is happening, so please pay that. You have a return due. You've got unread messages. And then my favorite page, this is the whole back end, the brains of what's happening out there, is the more. This is where I advise most people to go in my guidance. I'm telling them, locate the more. If you don't see a more button, click up here on this little symbol of a house or the word TinTap, and then go find the more menu option. And you can either type in what you're looking for, or you can just look under each section, it has its own utility. If you're trying to find a certificate of resale, you can click on view letters. If you are trying to gain access to an account, you'll go under manage accounts and click on gain access to an account. You can update your mailing address here under names and addresses. Just really, there's a wealth of information on this page alone. Get in there and just explore, look into each one, look at the functionality of what you're able to do. But we have a upcoming webinar in about 2 months, and it's actually going to be on navigating the revenue and TNTAP websites. And so it'll be something that if this is an area you need help in, that'd be a good time to go ahead and get scheduled for that when we put that out there. So wrapping up, you see here we have got the help articles. This is where to find this out. Like we showed earlier, the webinar video library. And before we get into all of the questions, I'm just going to make sure that you know our contact information. You can find us on Facebook. It is the Tennessee Department of Revenue. We are on Twitter or X. We are on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. I love YouTube, so you can watch all of these awesome videos through the archive there. You can sign up for email updates. And of course, we have our website. We've got our general call center phone number at 615-253-0600. And then you can email us at revenue.support@tn.gov. We have support staff here Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., excluding holidays. We also have revenue like we have a Nashville office, and we also have regional offices. And I think I seen somebody who had mentioned earlier about, can you go to these offices and get assistance? Absolutely, absolutely, you can.
Except one thing. We don't always have enough staff there to be able to have those staffed on a daily basis. So what we want people to do is to try to deal with us either by phone or email.
Yeah.
And if we need to direct you to an office, we'll tell you how to do that. Okay. And that's very rare, to be honest with you. So we can really help you out and get you the help you need electronically. You don't have to leave your house. So that's perfect.
If you're needing help with who to contact, we've got a contact us site here. Maybe it's vehicle services, collections, taxpayer services. So we want to make sure that you know all of our abilities to reach us. And here is some other resources. The
Yeah.
Department of
And
Economic and Community Development.
in the interest of time, we won't be able to go through a lot of this. This information will be in your material. And so you can hit those links there, go out to these different websites like Jeremy is saying there. And these organizations really do help you. So I think we won't have time for any additional questions, Jeremy, because we've reached our time limit. But certainly we appreciate everybody that's been with us today. I think everybody's gotten quite a bit of information here, and you've asked a lot of really good questions. So that means you were listening
Covered a lot
and
of ground.
actively engaged. That's awesome. You know it?
Covered a lot of ground.
Yeah,
Uh,
we appreciate that.
Very
So you
good.
want
And
to tell
like
them what's going to happen next, Jeremy? What are they going to do now?
Yeah, so I don't see the last slide for any upcoming things, but we do have some upcoming webinars. We have in next month or later this month, I think it's the 28th, we've got legislative updates for 2026. Going to be a wonderful thing to tune in for. And what we're going to do though is though, as we are exiting the class here, you're going to have a pop-up show up for you, and it's just going to be for you to interact with. But if you are needing CPE credits, make sure to fill that out so we can get that issued to you. But other than that, I can't think of anything else to cover at this moment. We do appreciate each and every person who attended today. And hey, feel free, reach out, use those resources to contact us. we are here for you for those purposes.
And don't forget that CPE credit on the survey coming out. Very important, just like Jeremy said. Okay.
All right.
And we thank you very much for your time today. Jeremy, great job
Thank
as
you.
always,
You
and
as well.
enjoyed being with everybody today.
All right. Very good. Hey, we hope you have a great rest of your day, everyone. Goodbye.